Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about something we all face in life: storms. These storms come in many forms: challenges, disappointments, failures, or losses. And they test our strength, our resolve, and sometimes even our faith. In these moments, it can feel as though the winds are too strong, the rain is unrelenting, and the path ahead is unclear. But I want to remind you of a powerful truth. When the storm tries to bring you down, remember that God has already chosen you to win. Life's challenges are inevitable, and every single one of us will face storms that seem insurmountable. These storms can take the form of heartbreak, failure, financial struggles, or even a loss that shakes us to our core. In those moments, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, defeated, and question why these trials have come our way. But what if we shifted our perspective? What if we saw these storms not as punishments or roadblocks, but as opportunities to grow and fulfill the purpose that God has placed within us? From the very beginning, God prepared you for these moments. Before you even took your first breath, He saw every challenge you would face, every tear you would cry, and every time you would feel like giving up. He knew the strength you would need, and because of that, He didn't create you as someone weak or incapable. No, He formed you with courage, resilience, and a spirit that refuses to be defeated. You might not feel it in the heat of the moment when the storm is at its fiercest, but that strength is there, waiting for you to tap into it. Sometimes the storms feel unfair. You might look around and see others who seem to have life so easy while you're battling winds that threaten to knock you down. You might wonder, why me? Why now? But let me tell you something powerful. God allows storms in the lives of those He has prepared for greatness. He sees something in you that you may not even see in yourself. He knows your potential, and He knows that the storm isn't there to destroy you, is there to shape you into who you were always meant to be. He. Think of a tree in the middle of a violent storm. The wind howls, the rain pours, and the branches sway wildly. It looks as though the tree might not survive. But underneath the surface, something incredible is happening. The tree's roots are digging deeper, finding stability and anchoring it to the ground. That's what happens to you in the middle of life's storms. The pressure might feel unbearable, and the pain might be more than you think you can handle. But deep down, you're becoming stronger. Your faith is deepening, your resilience is growing, and your capacity to endure is expanding. It's during these moments that God whispers to your heart, reminding you that you're not alone. He hasn't forgotten you. Even if it feels like you're in the middle of the storm with no sign of relief, He's watching over you, guiding you, and walking with you every step of the way. And when the storm passes, and it will pass, you'll look back and see how far you've come. You'll realize that the very thing you thought would break you was a thing that built you up, making you stronger, wiser, and ready to step into your destiny. It's important to remember that God doesn't allow storms in your life to test your limits without also giving you the tools to succeed. He places the right people, opportunities, and resources in your path, even when you can't see them right away. And sometimes it's in your darkest moments that His light shines the brightest. Those times of struggle can bring you closer to Him, reminding you of the power of His love and His unshakable plan for your life. You might feel like you're walking through the storm alone, but you're never truly alone. God has been there from the beginning, preparing you, equipping you, and strengthening you for this moment. He's always one step ahead, clearing the way and ensuring that even when the winds howl and the rain falls, you're not defeated. Because deep within you is the spirit of someone chosen by God to rise above the storm. You've been prepared for this, and nothing can take away the victory He has already promised you. Each one of us is here for a reason. Your life is not a random occurrence, and you are not just another person blending into the crowd. You were created with a divine purpose, a unique mission that only you can fulfill. God didn't make you by accident, nor did he place you here without a plan. Long before you were born, he saw your potential, mapped out your journey, and chose you to carry out something extraordinary in this world. It's easy to lose sight of this when life gets tough. You might feel insignificant, questioning whether you matter or if your contributions make any difference. You might compare yourself to others and feel like they're achieving more, or living more, or being more. But let me tell you something powerful. God doesn't compare you to anyone else. He doesn't measure your worth by the standards of the world. God measures your worth by the standards of the world. He sees you for who you are, his child, crafted perfectly in his image, carrying a purpose that no one else can fulfill. There is a reason why you've faced the challenges you've endured. Nothing in your life has been wasted. Every tear you've cried, every mountain you've climbed, and every setback you've experienced has been part of God's bigger plan. He uses every piece of your story, even the broken parts, to bring about something beautiful. What you might see as a failure or a mistake, God sees as a stepping stone toward your destiny. He knows the end of your story, and he's working all things together for your good. That's the organ. Sometimes the weight of your purpose can feel overwhelming. You might wonder, why me? Why did God choose me for this path? But let me tell you why. Because he sees something in you that's powerful, unshakable, and extraordinary. Even if you don't see it in yourself, God knows the strength and the gifts he's placed within you. He chose you because he knows you are capable of carrying out the mission he has assigned to you. Your purpose isn't just about achieving big goals or gaining recognition. It's about impacting lives, bringing light to dark places, and fulfilling the role that only you can play in this world. Whether it's through your kindness, your creativity, your leadership, or simply your ability to listen and be present for others, God has given you something special. Your purpose might not always feel grand or spectacular, but that doesn't make it any less significant. Even the smallest acts of faith and love can ripple out and change the world in ways you can't imagine. If the church wasn't built by the small men of the people, there will be moments when doubt creeps in and you feel like you're not enough. The storms of life may try to convince you that you're not qualified, not capable, or not worthy of the purpose God has given you. But in those moments, remember this: God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. He doesn't expect you to have all the answers or all the strength. He simply asks you to trust him, to lean on him, and to take one step at a time in faith. You are here for a reason, and your purpose is greater than anything you can imagine. It's not tied to your circumstances, your past mistakes, or even your current struggles. It's tied to the unshakable truth that God chose you. And because he chose you, nothing can take away the destiny he has prepared for you. Even when you feel lost, even when the path seems unclear, know that you are walking in the direction of his plan. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to trust that the one who created you has already paved the way. Your purpose is a gift, a calling, and a reminder that you are deeply loved and uniquely valued. You were created for more than just surviving. You were created to thrive, to impact, and to fulfill the destiny that only you can achieve. Every breath you take, every step you make is a testament to the fact that God's plan for you is still unfolding. And it's more incredible than you can imagine. Life has a way of bringing storms into our path. Storms that shake us to our core and make us question whether we have the strength to keep going. In these moments, it can feel like everything is working against us, like the winds are too strong and we might break under the pressure. But what if I told you that these storms are not meant to destroy you? What if I told you they are there to make you stronger, to help you grow, and to prepare you for the incredible future God has in store for you? When you face a storm, it's natural to feel afraid. Fear has a way of creeping into your heart and whispering lies, telling you that you're not strong enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough. But those lies couldn't be further from the truth. You see, storms are not a sign of failure or weakness. They are a part of the process of becoming who you were meant to be. Just like gold is refined in fire, your character is refined in the storms. The struggles, the hardships, and the pain are not there to break you. They are there to build you. Think about how a tree grows during a storm. The wind may bend it, the rain may batter it, and yet beneath the surface, the roots are digging deeper into the soil. Those roots are finding strength and stability they never needed before. That's exactly what happens to you when you face life's challenges. On the surface, you might feel like you're bending under the weight of it all. But deep down, something powerful is happening. Your faith is growing, your resilience is strengthening, and your spirit is being prepared for greater things. It's easy to see the storm as the enemy, but sometimes the storm is exactly what we need to step into the next level of our purpose. Without resistance, there's no growth. Without challenge, there's no opportunity to discover the depths of our strength. Every storm you face is a chance to trust God in a deeper way, to lean on His promises, and to remind yourself that you are never alone in the battle. I know it doesn't feel that way in the middle of the storm. In those moments, it's hard to see beyond the pain and the chaos. You may feel like you're barely holding on, like the storm is too much to bear. But I want to remind you that God doesn't bring storms into your life without also giving you the tools to endure them. He has already equipped you with everything you need to overcome. He's given you a heart that can withstand pressure, a spirit that refuses to give up, and a faith that can move mountains. Yeah. The truth is, storms have a way of revealing what's inside us. They strip away the superficial, the comfortable, and the temporary, leaving behind the core of who we truly are. And in that core is something unshakable, something planted there by God Himself. No matter how strong the storm is, it cannot uproot the purpose and the destiny that God has placed within you. So, every storm is temporary. The winds may blow, the rain may pour, and the skies may be dark, but the storm will pass. And when it does, you'll see that you've come out of it stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the journey ahead. You'll look back and realize that the storm didn't defeat you, it defined you. It reminded you of the strength you didn't know you had, the faith that carried you through, and the God who never left your side. So when you face a storm, don't let it convince you that you're weak or incapable. Instead, let it remind you that you are growing, that your roots are digging deeper, and that God is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. The storm is not your end. It's the beginning of something extraordinary. There are moments in life when everything feels overwhelming, when the storms around you are so fierce that it's hard to see a way forward. In those moments, it's natural to feel doubt creeping in. You may wonder if God is truly there, if His promises still stand, or if you've somehow been forgotten. But let me tell you something that can anchor your heart even in the fiercest storm. God's promises are unchanging. They're not based on how you feel or on the circumstances you face. They are based on who He is, and He is faithful, even when life feels like it's falling apart. I have a choice to make. When God makes a promise, it's not just words. It's a covenant, a declaration that cannot be broken. He has promised that He will never leave you or forsake you, no matter how difficult things become. When the storm is raging and you feel like you're all alone, His presence is right there with you. He's holding you, guiding you, and reminding you that you don't have to face this battle by yourself. His love for you is constant, unshaken by the winds of life. And His promises are like a lighthouse, guiding you safely to shore. One of the most beautiful things about God's promises is that they are timeless. He said, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." And that truth still stands today. He said, "I have plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." And that promise hasn't expired. Even when you feel like the world is crumbling around you, these words remain as true as the day they were spoken. God's promises are not temporary fixes. They are eternal truths, rooted in His infinite love and power. It is hard to cling to promises when everything seems to be falling apart. There are moments when your faith is tested to its limits, when it feels like the storms of life are louder than God's voice. But that's when you have to remind yourself of who God is. He is not a God who lies or changes His mind. If He has promised to make a way for you, then He will. If He has declared that you are more than a conqueror, then you are. Even when the path ahead is unclear, His promises remain the same, lighting your way one step at a time. The enemy loves to use the storm to plant seeds of fear and doubt. He'll whisper lies, trying to convince you that God's promises don't apply to you, that you've made too many mistakes, or that the storm is too big even for God to handle. But those are just lies, and they have no power over the truth. God doesn't break His promises. He doesn't forget about you or leave you behind. His faithfulness is not conditional on your circumstances. It is rooted in His unchanging nature, and that is something you can always rely on. There's power in holding on to God's promises even when everything around you is screaming for you to let go. When you declare His promises over your life, you're not just speaking words. You're aligning your heart with His truth. You're reminding yourself that His plans for you are good, that His love for you is eternal, and that His power is greater than any storm you'll ever face. In those moments, His promises become your lifeline, pulling you out of despair and anchoring you in hope. So even when the rain won't stop, when the winds feel relentless, and when the storm seems endless, hold on to His promises. Speak them out loud. Write them down. Let them remind you that God is not finished with you yet. The storm may be fierce, but His promises are stronger. They will carry you through and remind you that His word never fails. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we face. It can creep into your mind in the quietest moments, whispering doubts and making you feel small, unprepared, and incapable. When storms come into your life, fear often becomes louder, clouding your judgment and making you question your ability to endure. It tells you that the obstacles are too big, the odds are too great, and that giving up might be the only option. But fear is a liar. It thrives on uncertainty, and its goal is to paralyze you. However, there is something far more powerful than fear, something that can silence its voice and give you the courage to keep going. Faith. Faith isn't about denying the reality of the storm. It's about choosing to believe in a greater reality. It's about trusting in a God who is bigger than any challenge, who sees the beginning and the end, and who is in control even when everything around you feels chaotic. Fear wants you to focus on the size of the storm, but faith reminds you to focus on the size of your God. Faith tries to magnify the problem, while faith magnifies the solution. And the truth is, no matter how fierce the storm, God's power is always greater. There's something miraculous that happens when you choose faith over fear. The situation around you might not change immediately, but something inside of you begins to shift. Faith has a way of calming the chaos in your heart, giving you peace that doesn't make sense in the middle of the storm. It's not about pretending the storm isn't there. It's about standing firm, knowing that you don't have to face it alone. Faith reminds you that God is with you, that his promises are true, and that he has already equipped you with everything you need to overcome. Fear is loud, but faith doesn't have to shout to be strong. Even a small amount of faith can move mountains. Jesus himself said that faith as small as a mustard seed is enough to make the impossible possible. You don't have to have perfect faith or unshakable confidence all the time. Sometimes faith is simply taking one small step forward even when you're scared. It's trusting that God will meet you in that step, that he will guide you, and that he will make a way where there seems to be no way. There's a beautiful strength that comes from choosing faith in the face of fear. It's the kind of strength that allows you to walk through fire without being burned, to face giants without trembling, and to keep going even when the road is hard. Faith doesn't eliminate the challenges, but it gives you the courage to face them. It shifts your perspective, helping you see the storm not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity to grow, to trust, and to experience God's power in a deeper way. The enemy knows the power of faith, and that's why he works so hard to keep you trapped in fear. He'll try to remind you of every failure, every weakness, and every time you've fallen short. But faith reminds you of something greater: God's strength in your weakness, his forgiveness for your failures, and his grace that is always enough. Fear tells you that you can't, but faith declares that God can. Every time you choose faith over fear, you're not just surviving, you're overcoming. You're proving that the storm doesn't define you, and neither does the fear it tries to bring. You're stepping into the truth that you are more than a conqueror, that you are chosen, and that God's plans for you are good. Faith isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. Now, it's the key to unlocking the courage and strength that God has already placed within you, and it's the light that guides you through even the darkest storms. Sometimes in the middle of life's fiercest storms, it's easy to forget the victory that has already been promised to you. The chaos around you can make it feel like defeat is inevitable, like the struggle will never end. But here's the truth: God has already declared you a winner. The outcome is not in question. No matter how strong the winds blow or how heavy the rain falls, your victory is secure, because it's not based on your strength. It's based on his. When you face a battle, it's tempting to focus on the fight. You can become consumed by the challenges, the obstacles, and the pain. It's human nature to wonder if you're strong enough or capable enough to overcome. But what you need to remember is that the battle is not yours to fight alone. God goes before you, stands beside you, and carries you when you feel like you can't take another step. You're not fighting for victory. You're fighting from a place of victory that has already been won for you. It's hard to hold on to that truth when you're in the thick of it. There will be days when doubt feels heavier than faith, when the voices of fear and failure seem louder than God's promises. On those days, remind yourself of who you are and whose you are. You are not defined by your mistakes, your weaknesses, or even the storms you're facing. You are defined by the love of a God who chose you, redeemed you, and has already given you the victory. Victory doesn't always look like what we expect. Sometimes it's not about the storm disappearing instantly. Sometimes it's about finding peace in the middle of it. Sometimes it's about learning to trust God in deeper ways, even when the situation doesn't make sense. And sometimes it's about discovering a strength within yourself that you never knew was there. The storm might not go away immediately, but that doesn't mean you're not winning. Victory is in every step forward. Every moment you choose faith over fear. Every time you keep going when you feel like giving up. God's promises are not empty words. When he says you are more than a conqueror, he means it. When he says that no weapon formed against you will prosper, he means it. And when he says that his plans for you are good, you can trust that even when the path seems unclear, he is working all things together for your good. Your victory was written long before the storm ever appeared. It's not something you have to earn or fight for. It's a gift that has already been given to you. It's okay to feel weary sometimes. It's okay to cry, to question, and to wonder why the storm is so relentless. But don't let those moments of weakness make you forget the strength that lives inside you. God doesn't expect you to be perfect. He doesn't demand that you have it all figured out. He just asks you to trust him, to lean on him, and to keep walking forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. You were not created to live in defeat. You were created to walk in victory, to rise above the storm, and to fulfill the incredible purpose that God has placed on your life. The storm might feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have the power to define you. You've already been chosen, equipped, and declared victorious by the one who holds the universe in his hands. So as the storm rages, hold your head high. Remember that you are not alone, that you are not forgotten, and that the victory is already yours. Walk in that truth, live in that promise, and never forget that the God who chose you to win will never leave your side. The storm may try to bring you down, but it cannot take away what God has already secured for you.